Hallelujah. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, good midday, wherever you are, and whomever you are, excuse me. We are in this topic, we are in this subject, we are in this teaching that's titled, Are You Ready? Are we ready? All right. We are going to be in Mark, the 11th chapter. That's where we start. That's where we want to begin. So I encourage you to get your Bible, get your tablet, your Bible app, what have you. Open it to Mark chapter 11. And if you want, I got to do a little rambling on. So if you want to read while I ramble, but read from verse 1 and stop anywhere down by verse 22, 23, 20. Read the whole chapter if you want, right? But we are going to get into this and we are going to, again, turn over the soil. We are going to turn up. We're going to bring this home to a place where we belong, right? In this earth realm here. I don't know who you are out there listening. I don't know what you listen to. But if you pay attention to what's going on in this world, you will, if it doesn't spook you, if it doesn't spark your curiosity, if it doesn't cause your inclination to think about God, then I have to say something ain't right. Something ain't right with you. I'm not trying to put you down or anything, but I'm just saying. Right? But this world we are living in, with all the things that's going on, every good thing is now purported to be a bad thing, and every bad thing is purported to be a good thing. Every godly thing is purported to be evil, and every evil thing is seemingly purported to be godly. The world is upside down. Like the old folks used to say, it's going to hell in a handbasket. And the question is, are you ready? Are you ready for what's next? Are you ready for what's coming? And I'm not necessarily talking about the end of the world. I'm talking about tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. Right? Because we don't know. And if you say you believe, then you don't know. If you don't believe, then you don't have a care in the world, and not knowing is not important to you. Right? But if you say you believe, then you don't know. And if you don't know, I suggest you begin to think. Right? Yesterday I was watching, a matter of fact, and listening, of course, to four young men, and I was pleased because these young men were listening to the truth, not from a preacher. I'm not talking about young men who were in the church. I'm talking about they were doing and you see that a lot now on YouTube. They were doing a reaction video, and the four of them were listening to two people talking true, one black, one white. Not that I have anything to do with anything, right? But these four young men, I was watching them, and the thing that struck me in this world we are living in, that if you don't have God and you don't have that godly righteousness to hold on to, you could get despondent. You could be in a bad state emotionally, right? You could be hopeless. You could become more and more despondent. And what stirred me about that podcast, the show with the four guys, that what stirred me was that, wow, these are four young men. They seem to be good friends. They seem to just come out of college. So probably 24, 25, 26, maybe all 24, all 25, all 26. I don't know. They talked a little bit about being out of college and stuff like that. Maybe even as old as 30. Still don't know. But that's not important. What struck me was the fact that these young men were listening to things that you would think young men in today's society, in today's world, you would think that, where would you find young people listening to stuff like they were listening to, right? And that was the first thing that got to me. I was like, wow, that's awesome, right? And as I listened to the same two people that they were listening to, I was struck even further because I recognized that the two people who they were listening to were speaking logic, simplistic, undeniable truths. Amazing. And I couldn't help but imagine the impact that what these two guys were saying. I can imagine the impact that it would have on these four guys. Now, the reason why I say that is because I'm a person very in tune to, I love people. I'm in tune to people. What, their personalities, characteristics, and so on and so on. And, as an adult, as an older person, I talk to young people. And I work with young people. And so I'm always wary about what I say to young people in terms of truth, how I joke with them, my honesty levels with them, and so on. And one thing I know is with young folk, you got to be straight up honest. Because they could see through some crap, right? Young people have a tendency to, I don't know if it's a God thing, it might be a God thing, but they have that innate tendency to see through falsity, to see through fallacy. They could see through stuff, right? Let me just say most of it. And so I'm always wary about, if the conversations I'm having with them, right? Excuse me. Things like, if they ask for advice, what advice I'm going to give and how am I going to give that advice? In what frame of mind, under what pretext, under what context, and so on, right? I'm very wary of all of that because I understand that I love God. I love my Father, right? And I do everything in my power to live according to His will, according to His word, to be obedient. And I live for that, right? To think, to have Him on my mind as much as He has me on His mind or on His heart. And so everything I do, it doesn't matter whether it's in a conversation or if it's in this teaching or if it's in just lollygagging, hanging out, talking, laughing. I always am very particular about mannerisms, the way I do things, how I do things, or the way I say things, how I say things, how I am, if I'm not in a good mood, if I'm angry, you know, if I'm sad, if I'm happy. I always try to be wary of that place I'm in, emotionally and physically, so that whatever comes out of me doesn't come out tainted, right? And that's something that we ought to pay attention to, right? I'm a God-fearing person, okay? And I felt so good knowing that at least 4 people in the world that we in today is listening to truth, is listening to some just 2 guys making tremendous a lot of sense. Just speaking about facts, incorporating God in their conversation, and just being open and honest. And here these 4 young guys just listening and themselves in awe of what they are hearing. You know, you should see how they're reacting, and they're pausing the interview, and they're talking, and it was just uplifting, right? I watched them on 2 separate videos. Carry on this way, and it was really uplifting, because the place we are in today in society and in this world, it was awesome to see young men, especially men, right? I'm big on men. I'm big on the male person, the male human being. I'm big on that, you know. And I do a podcast with another group of men on a Wednesday evening called Heart of the Matter. And it's all men, and we just, as the girls would say, let your hair down. We just take off all the masks, and we just tell it like it is, right? At least I know so far all the guys that have been on this podcast kind of have that vibe. They just drop the facade. You know, men could be guarded. Men could be I wouldn't say introverted. Introverted is not the best way to describe men as a whole, but they could be guarded. They could be very, you know, guarded by their reactions, by their interactions with people. It's just how we are, right? It's so I get that, but in this podcast, Heart of the Matter, we just encourage men who come on, even if they're coming on to listen, even if they don't have anything to say or to add or whatever. Listen with the mindset that we're all in the same place. Nobody is higher than anybody. Nobody is better than anybody. We're not coming from that place of upper echelons in intelligence or anything like that. We coming from a place of loving God and a place of yearning and striving and wanting to be godly men, leaders. You know, I think in part 2 of this series, you know, I mentioned that I didn't ask. No human being born, no animal born, nothing that was born made a request to its birther that I want to be a male. Can I be a female, please, 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 mom, I want to be, that's nothing, that doesn't happen. That's not how it happens. You are born and everybody know what you are when they look at your features, your physical features, okay? Not what you feel and what you think. They look at your physical features from the top of your head to the sole of your feet. They look at you and determine, oh, you're a male or you're a female. That's it, right? And in the rare case where you have these anomalies, right? And we do have anomalies in life. We have anomalies in the plant world. We have anomalies in the animal kingdom. We have anomalies in the human world, in the human species. We have anomalies. Things that are just weird. Things that are not the way they're supposed to be. Those are called anomalies, not normal. Not normalies. Anomaly. It's an anomaly. It's not supposed to be like this. Right? And I hope you all get my drift. Okay? Saying it without saying it, but no, saying it exactly. Right? It was refreshing to see that there are young people in this present world who are not blinded by the foolishness that's taking place, right? I'm not a very political person. Everything I do is based on the biblical narrative. Life itself is based on the biblical narrative. And you don't have to believe that. And that's fine if you don't. It's cool. But I'm just saying, it's true. Right? So that's, I just wanted to say that off the cuff, because in this current stage you're living in, it's it could be a little despondent, So that blessed my heart yesterday, and I was really encouraged. Right? But getting back to the teaching, are you ready? Am I ready? Right? In the passage that we are dealing with, we see God, Yeshua, the God-man. We see him in the passage in Mark 11, we see that he already knows everything. Right? Excuse me here while we see he is in tune with life and with society and with the way things are and with the way things, he's in tune. How do I know that? Because, and I hope you did read while I was rambling on, in the beginning of Mark 11, we see that this man, Yeshua, came to Bethpage, to Jerusalem, near Jerusalem, and to Bethany. He was at the Mount of Olives, and he sent two of his disciples, and he said to them, I want you to listen. Go your way into the village that is opposite you. Right? So, in the first one, we have two villages that are spoken of. That's near Jerusalem. So, three places. There's Jerusalem. So, they came near to Jerusalem to a place called Bethphage, and and Bethany. Right? So these two places, Bethphage and Bethany, was near Jerusalem. At the Mount of Olives, and the Mount of Olives is a relatively common place where Yeshua would hang out, if you will, with his disciples, right? Seems like they're always at the Mount of Olives. At the Mount of Olives, he gave the whole beatitude speech, you know. So he said to two of his disciples, go into the village that is opposite you. And immediately as you enter into it, you will find a young donkey tied, on which no one has sat. Untie him and bring him. So that's why I said that God, Yeshua, the man, he knows everything about you, ma'am, sir. Listen, he knows everything about you. He knows your thoughts. He knows your name. He knows where you are. He knows who you are. So ain't no need to hide. Right? Because as I stated in the last session, how does he know that in the village there's a donkey tied? And how does he know that the donkey that's tied, no one has never sat on that donkey? How does he know that? Okay? Because he's God. He knows everything. Simple answer. Listen, let me just say this here. God is simple, okay? God is a simple. Okay. Let me say that. Let me say it like this. God is not that God is simple, but everything for God is simple. But God himself is deeply complex, right? It's deeply complex, and mind is beyond your imagination, beyond your thoughts and your dreams and your ideas, right? But he's really simple. And that's why I said, this is easy. He knows where everything is. He knows that this donkey is tied and why no one is. He knows that because he's God. It's simple. There's no mystery to it. There's nothing mystifying. Ooh, he is God. He is. Then he says in verse 3, if anyone asks you, what are you doing? Say, the Lord needs him. It's like, again, simple, right? Simple. How does he knows? Because when we continue to read, we see that the two disciples went into the village. They saw the donkey. They untied the donkey. Everything. They untied the donkey. They was bringing it, and somebody saw them, and somebody asked, what are you doing? And their response was, the Lord have needs of him. And the other person didn't have a rebuttal, couldn't stop them, couldn't say anything, couldn't do anything, just allow them to leave. Why? How is that? Why is that? Okay. I gave you the answer already, right? So I hope you're not looking for me to answer the question. We see that. And when we skip all the way down to verse 12. The next day, when they had come out from Bethany, he was hungry. We have to pay attention to that. All right. And I don't want to go over last week's teaching, but it's certain things you have to kind of, you know, before you go forward, you kind of take a step back a little bit and kind of turn around and this a little bit. And then, so the propulsion forward is a little bit better, right? He was hungry. Seeing a fig tree afar off having leaves. Seeing a fig tree afar off having leaves. Very important. He came to see if perhaps he might find anything on it. Now, it's interesting how the writers of these passages write. And it's even more interesting how we read and interpret the writing. Because the writer is writing as if Yeshua doesn't know that the fig tree doesn't have any figs on it. The writer is writing as if Yeshua doesn't know what is going on. Because he went to the fig tree to see if perhaps there are any figs on it. I always say this to people. You got to be aware of your surroundings. You got to be aware of where you are. You got to be aware of who you're talking to. You got to be aware of what you are going to say or what you are saying. You have to be aware. To me, it's a mandatory part of life. I taught my two sons that, right? I always tell them, you have to be aware. Because sometimes I'll get into with one of my kids and he talked back to me. And I had to point out to him, I said, oh, hold up a second, sir. Do you know who I am? Do you know where you are? And sometimes I have to remind him, wait a second, I'm your father. Second to begin, this is my house. I'm paying the bills here. Thirdly, you're gonna talk to me as if you understand that. As if you know that. You understand what I'm saying? So that's why I understand that myself. Because guess what? I go to work and I have a boss. Right? And no matter what my boss does or says, if that flips me off, I have to understand. First to begin, I'm at my job. Second to begin, that's my boss. So I have got to understand that to know how to maneuver through a response in certain situations, right? I also found myself listening to two young ladies, watching them quite a bit the past week or so, couple of weeks or so. And I found, and they did a reaction video to Uncle Tom. And they encourage people, black people especially, to go look at the movie Uncle Tom. And I said to myself, I'm gonna check this. I think it's a documentary. There's one and there's two. Now I looked at one last and I'm not sure if that's the Uncle Tom that I was supposed to be looking at. That one says the title of that one was on Amazon. It was The Redemption of Uncle Tom or something like that. And the story was phenomenal, right? Phenomenal. And so I recommend it because it shows the character of a human being who is oppressed. At the time there was slavery. It shows the character of a human being during the time of slavery who made up in his mind that he is going to operate in an absolute way of integrity and loyalty, and you have to see it to understand. You have to see it to hear it yourself. And the story is narrated by historians, a museum historian, his some of his family, a great-great-grandson or something like that, a great-great-great-grandmom or something, granddaughter or something like that. But I'm going to digress. It was narrated by Danny Glover, narrated the whole thing. You got to see that, because in spite of the fact that it was slavery, it talked about, and it tells you where the term Uncle Tom comes from. And I guarantee you all will not believe it. I was like, wow. Because what they call Uncle Tom today is absolutely not how that term was derived. And I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to encourage you guys to go see it. I myself, I'm going to make sure and see Uncle Tom 2. Right? That's the next one I want to go see, Uncle Tom 2. Recommended by these two beautiful young ladies. And I was blown away. So thank you guys for that. But I was trying to figure out where I was. But yeah, so when we read things, we interpret what we read, right? Just like when we hear something, I have to interpret what I hear, right? If somebody is angry and they speak, what I hear could be mixed with anger. So I could interpret that as the person being angry, right? The writer here says he was hungry. Seeing a fig tree afar off, having leaves, which is very, very important. The writer then goes on to say, he came to see, this is Jesus, God, comes to see if perhaps he might find anything on the tree. Anything fruit-wise. Because remember, he's hungry. So if he's hungry, he's looking for something to satisfy that hunger, right? But the writer writes it in a way as if to say, Yeshua didn't know, he had no idea what was going on, so he had to go find out, right? He had to go find out. And so when we read that and we interpret that, if we don't understand that we are talking about God, we are talking about Jesus, we are talking about Yeshua, who already know everything. Like I said a couple minutes ago, he knows your name. He knows where you are. He knows the very number of hairs on your head. He knows where you live in. He knows all your actions. He knows your deeds. He knows your thoughts. He knows everything about you. Nothing you do is surprising to him. So, what is the writer, or what should we glean from that? Yeshua here is trying to make a point. Are you ready? He's going somewhere. Are you ready? The writer continues. When he came to it, he found nothing but leaves. For it was not the time for the figs. It wasn't the season for figs. So, again, the writer saying, when he saw the tree afar off, right? And I was looking at pictures of fig trees, you know, to see what kind of tree was it. If perhaps it was also possible for him to, as he was walking towards the tree, see, because sometimes you're approaching a tree and you could tell if the tree has fruit or not from as you get close to it, right? So I'm thinking to myself, I wanted to see a tree, a fig tree. I wanted to see, you know, if it's you know, far off and you walked it, if it's possible, depending on how the fruit is on the tree, whether before you actually get up to the tree, you could tell if the tree has fruit on it or not, right? Because you could literally see some of the fruit. And fig trees are that kind of tree. It's a tree kind of like you could literally, the closer you get to it, is the more you'll be able to tell if there's fruit on it. The mere fact that he got up to it and didn't find any fruit makes it even, makes a better argument for the fact that the tree was, as I said last week, was faking it, right? I think I pointed that out last week in the session. The tree is faking it. The tree is standing there with leaves, looking like he knows something, looking like he has something. And so when someone approaches it to make an inquiry, there is nothing to be had. I go back to the comment I make about the young people. I go back to the comment I made about being conscious of where you are, who is talking to you, if somebody's talking to you. Being conscious of what you say, how you say it, and so on. Being conscious of all those factors at all times, right? That's how I live, right? Those are the things, those are some of the things that I make very prominent in my life, right? Because the scripture says, as Paul tells Timothy, you have to be ready in season. Let's go to Colossians. I think it's Colossians 3, right? I'm looking for it. The biblical passages talk a lot about being be in season, be ready in season and out of season. So if we apply that principle to the fig tree wasn't the scripture clearly says, the narrator, the writer clearly says, the fig tree had leaves. And when a tree have leaves, that means the tree is alive. The tree is alive. And the tree is ready to produce. The tree is producing. the tree has produced. Get me? So, for you to come to a tree that has leaves and doesn't have fruit, the tree's excuse is, well, it's not time for the figs. It's not time for me to have fruit. But God's reason, God's mindset for his creation is for that creation has to be ready at any given time. Creation has to be ready at any given moment for anything. You have to be ready. Paul tells Timothy, be in season, be ready in season and out of season. Okay? He said, I command you therefore before God and Yeshua the Messiah, who will judge the living and the dead at his appearing and his kingdom, proclaim the word. Be urgent, right? Be ready in season and out of season. Be ready in season and out of season. Okay? Why? Because we don't know. We don't know if tomorrow is there for us. Tomorrow. I forget the lyrics of the song. Who promised you tomorrow? Right? God says, I stand at the door and I knock. When you hear that knock, what's the command? Open the door. Don't wait till tomorrow. Because tomorrow is promised to no one. I know we live and we talk and we act like we're going to be here tomorrow. Truth is, you don't know. I know many of you out there may be fans of the movie, of the sitcom Friends, right? Matthew Perry died. I saw, I think it was yesterday, day before yesterday. He died. He was 54 years old. 54 is pretty young. Okay? Do you know anyone who died just suddenly? Just unexpectedly? Do you know? Every day, right? The news is somebody died. And it's not necessarily really important the way the person died. And I want to be sensitive here because people have died because of the ignorance of other people, right? Look what's going on in Israel today, right? With Hamas and the Israeli war, right? Many innocent people have died, right? You know, we had so many school shootings and mass shootings around the world where people died. And so the point I'm making is, you don't know. We don't know. And we've got to stop acting as if we are still in control. That's the crucial part about this whole thing. We act as though we are in charge, like the fig tree. We're ready to go meet our maker. I'm ready to give fruit. I'm ready. I look ready. I appear ready, but I'm dry. I ain't got jack. I ain't got squat. Because if somebody comes to me seeking advice, seeking counsel, what am I going to say to them if I'm not ready? This is what Paul is telling Timothy. Be ready in season and out of season. Which means be ready all the time. It doesn't matter. You have to be ready to give an answer. Reprove. Reprove means to rebuke, right? Somebody comes to you with some foolish idea, an ideal, talking about, you know, well, I think I'm a female. But you know that you're looking at them, you're like, no, you're not. But I feel like that, but you're not. Well, I feel like this, but you're not. We've come to a place, we cannot. I couldn't believe this when I saw it. We cannot say what a woman is. We can't do it. It's like big intellectual people. Lady was going up to be a high judge of some sort. She couldn't. She is a woman herself. Oh, are we nuts? Have we lost our minds? Really? Have we lost everything? Here, the fig tree is pretending to know what's going on. I know what's going on. Look at me. I got leaves. I'm up here. Look at me. I'm standing tall in front of you. I got leaves. Let's go to Matthew chapter 7. Give you a second to get there. Matthew chapter 7. Again, we have to understand what God is saying. And what God is saying is so easy. It's simple, people. Simple. We got to stop making it like it's a physics problem, like it's a project, like it's a physics, science, you know. In school, they used to give us these projects and they always seem to be so difficult. It's like, are you serious? No, God is simpler than that. He's simpler than that. Even though he is as complex as you could find. You can't fathom him. You can't understand him. He said, my ways are higher than your ways. And your ways are lower than my ways. And my thoughts are beyond your thoughts. And just as the heavens is higher than the earth. And he gives us such a simple example. Because you could look up and you could see the heavens. But honestly, you know the heavens is not right there where you see in it. The heavens is beyond where your vision. The heavens is way beyond what you could see. And so God is saying to us, listen, you simpletons. It's not an insult. He's not insulting us. He's just letting us know. Listen, stop pretending. Stop pretending like you all that and you're not. Last week I talked about how God kept poking me and probing me when I was put in the position of the men's ministry leader in Miami, when I was in Miami. And God kept so you're a man now, huh? You're a man. It's just unbelievable. I'm like, God, stop. Why are you poking at me? It's not an insult. He wasn't trying to insult me. He just wanted me to know simple things. Listen, you're not a man because you wanted to be a man. You're not a male because you asked to be a male. You're male because I made you like that. I made you male. That was my choice for you because I knew who you are. He tells Jeremiah, I know you before you were born, before you were conceived in the womb of your mother. I knew you. I know you, man. Who you think you is? And when people out there act as if they're God, and as if God don't know them, as if, excuse me, as if, the seat keep going down, as if, you know, that they're top of the world and they're in charge of everything. You know, get on the camera and say all kinds of stupid stuff. And people follow them. Oh, yes, Master. Crazy. They don't know God. They have no idea about God. They think they're God. And they're not. Not even close. God is saying, are we in Matthew 7, right? Let's start verse 9. He says, who is there among you, if your son asks him for a bread, is going to give him a stone? Which, you think about that, you fathers out there or mothers out there. You tell me, your son come to you and ask you for a fish. Yeshua went to the tree looking for fruit. Because the tree showed himself like he got some fruit. Yeshua said, okay, you show yourself like you had fruit. Well, I'm coming to you because I'm hungry. I want some fruit. Who among you out there, if your son asks you for a bread, is going to give him a stone? Notice how far apart these two are. A bread is nice and soft and, you know, hopefully fresh. Right? A stone is rock hard. You can't chew it. A stone will destroy your mouth if you try to chew it. So who among you out there, if your son asks you for something good, is going to give him something bad? Or if he asks for a fish, it's going to give him a serpent, snake, right? Same principle, different way of saying it. He asks for something good, something edible, something nourishing. You give him something bad. Snake. But so, yeah, people eat snake. Well, snake is unclean. Oh, you didn't know. You didn't know them things still apply, did you? Okay. Well, I suggest you go back in some of those. Go on the channel. Go in our channel and go back in some of those videos. snake is unclean. So it's bad. Right? Which one among you, if your child asks for something good, is going to give him something bad? And then he makes this point. If you then, being evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father who is in heaven give you good things to those who ask? He says, you who is evil. Is he saying that we are evil? This is just a writer expressing an idea, okay? Jesus is not calling you evil. He's just saying, in comparison to God, everything is evil. In comparison to God, okay? Even he himself, okay? Even he himself did not make himself, of himself, anything, even though he knew that he was equal to God, okay? Read Philippians 2 and 5. So when he's comparing humans with God, he's saying, y'all ain't nowhere in that category. And if you, who are nowhere in that category, would give your children good things, how much more will he, who is a greater, higher, more extravagant category? But that's not where we end. And so I digress. We skip down to verse 15. I want us to still have this image of the tree with leaves, pretending that, hey, come over here, because I got stuff, I can feed you. I know everything. I have the solution for everything. Come over here, let me tell you how to solve it. I don't know what make people think God takes from the rich to give to the poor. I don't know what make people think that. That God will just go take from the rich. She just take it. Tell me where you see that written in there. That he just go, because somebody is... You see him taking anything from Abraham to give it to somebody who he think deserve it? No. He gives to each person accordingly. Even Yeshua, to give 110, 15, 11. And guess what? Each individual person did something different with what they had. Did something completely different. One even hid his own because he was afraid. Just to give us an insight into the things that we do that we think are right, and it's nowhere near in God's plans, nowhere close to what God talks about, nowhere close. Verse 15, he says, beware of false prophets. The tree is prophesying falsely. If you don't have fruit, don't bear no leaves yet. If it's not time for fruit, then you shouldn't be having leaves. You're looking like you're mature, like you have leaves, but you're not. Like some of the kids who's 12, 11, 13, They're dressing up and trying to look like they're 19, 20, 21, 25. And parents just let them do it. Parents, you are there to protect your children. You are there to protect your children. Your children cannot protect themselves. That's part of your job. I was watching a clip talking about parents and children. I was watching a clip of Michael Irvin, the ex-Dallas Cowboy football player. He was talking about Morant, Ja Morant, you know, the basketball player who's, you know, he keeps getting in issues with guns and doing stupid stuff. And Michael talked about the fact that his son, who grew up a certain way, is now purporting to act outside of that way that he grew up, you know. Even saying his son grew up in a gated community, you know. Now his son is out there pretending to be a thug. Right? I too have a rebellious son. In the same manner. Nobody's perfect. I get that. I'm not perfect. I'll never declare myself perfect. Please, I wish I was. But I ain't. Far from it. And I think, and as a matter of fact, as I say that word perfect, let me just say this as I'm there. I think it's an error in society. It's an error. Listen to this prophetic word. There's an error in society looking for a perfect human being. Because there's none perfect. Not Trump, not Biden, not nobody. But not because we can't find nobody perfect, that doesn't mean that there aren't people who are perfectly suited to do certain things. You see what I'm saying? Listen, parents, you're not perfect. But the mere fact that God allowed your wife or your girlfriend or whoever it is that you went to lay with, God allowed her to get pregnant. God knew, God feels that you would be perfect for that child. And when you operate outside of that perfection, then you lose. You lose, the child loses. You have to be what you're supposed to be. And if you're a parent, I used to tell my kids all the time, listen, I love hanging out with my kids. I'm telling you right now, okay? Loved hanging out with them. I told them, I said, y'all can live with me for the rest of your life. I don't care. Because I just love having you all around. I love having my kids around. Right? My kids didn't want to be around me because being around me meant that there are certain expectations. And of course, there's expectations. Right? There's expectations. They didn't want that. You know? They didn't want me to hamper their freedom. They didn't want me to prevent them from having fun. And I tell them all the time. So listen, you could be 70 years old and be having fun. tons of fun, right? Even this morning, before I got here, I was listening to, I think it was Vodi Bakum. He was some message, and in the message, he was talking about how the church made, how that stops a lot of people from becoming part of the church. You know, the fact that when they start to go to church, you know, you can't have fun no more, and you can't laugh no more, and you can't go out and have a good time. Oh yes, you can. Right? There's tons of stuff you could do as a believer. I believe in God with all my heart. You can't, through my experiences, through the things that I've lived, through things that I've seen with my own two eyes, that I've felt with my own mind, through things that I know, nobody could convince me that there is not a God. Nobody. Right? But not because I insist that I want to live for God. I insist that I want to be righteous. I insist that I want to be upright. I insist that I want to be godly. Not because I insist on these things, that means I can have fun. I don't have fun. Man, I'm telling you, I laugh like crazy sometimes. And I have a lot of fun, a lot of good, wholesome fun. See, most people put fun in a category where it's like lasciviousness. You know, you think fun is, you know, you go to the club and you wind down and you drink and get drunk and throw up on the ground. You think that's fun. That ain't fun. That's stupidity. Right? I lived through that. I thought that was fun too. Going out and having 2, 3, 4 girls and all that kind. You think that's fun. But that's not fun. That's sin. That's flesh. That's against God. But God said the joy of Jehovah is your strength. Listen, the joy of the Lord is your strength. And when you in God, there is a level of joy that you have that is beyond comparison. Okay? That when you tap into that joy, people can't believe it. They look at you like you crazy. But I got co-workers that's not in the church. I got co-workers that I talk to every day, that we have a lot of fun. And they know how I am. I don't curse. Right? I don't use profanity. I don't you know, just be rotted and be smacked down belligerent. I no, didn't know that. Did they see that? I have a lot of fun. I hang out with them. Go to ball games. Go we have this thing we call Thirsty Thursday. Go have a beer. Oh boy, that man drinking beer. I switch off. Okay, if you want to switch off, you can. I ain't holding you back. Nowhere in the Bible tells you can't drink. You can't have a beer. It says strong drink is deceiving, right? Strong drink is raging, and wine is a mocker, and strong drink is raging, right? And those are fools who are deceived by it. Proverbs says, in the New Covenant says, don't be drunk on wine, but be filled with the Spirit. He said, don't be drunk on wine. He didn't say don't drink wine. He said don't drink wine to the extent where you get drunk. Right? So nowhere in the biblical passages, you can say what you want. I don't care. Because you're not my God. I'm not following the rule of no man. You are not my God. My God is he who lives in heavens. He lives in the heavenly places. The earth is his footstool. He rules and reigns throughout the universe. You can't tie him down with your doctrine of lies. So if I want to go and drink a beer with my co-workers, I will. And I'm not condemned by it. Because I'm not sitting down, drinking alcohol, getting drunk and acting a fool. No, we go. Man, we have so much fun. We watch in the spot we go to, they have televisions. And there's always something going on, sports. Now is football and baseball is getting ready to end because the World Series is going on. Basketball just started up, so that's going to be something we going to be looking at. And we just talk about life and laugh and get to know each other better and better and better. These are guys that I work with Monday through Friday, 8 in the morning till 5, 6 in the evening. So you can say what you want. You can think what you want. Again, you're not my God. I don't know how we got off on this tangent, but beware of false prophets. And we have tons of them in the body, tons of them in the church, tons of them who say all kinds of stuff. Tons of them who say stuff in times past, and we still live by some of that stuff today. Some of us are so rooted and grounded in some of these false prophecies. It's shameful. It really is. Just like the one I just talked about. The whole, you know, even some people that I like, I would love to listen to them every so often. Like Gino Jenkins. I love to listen to him. Especially, there's a little short about him talking about, you don't know what a woman is in. A woman is in your mama. It is funny. It is hilarious. Because he's right. He's true. Crazy people don't know what a woman is. He said, your mama. Ask your mama. Funny. But he also talks about the ungodliness of drinking. God never says don't drink. He said don't stare at the glass until your eyes get red. See, God talks like that. He talks like that. Come on, boy, don't stare at the glass until your eyes get red. You know? Don't do that. Don't get drunk with wine, but be filled with the Spirit. That's why they call alcohol a spirit. You know, I was hanging out with one of my buddies one time, and I told him that. I say, you know why they call alcohol spirits? Because when you drink, when you drink to a certain degree, if you don't know what you're doing, you become another person. Because the alcohol puts you in a different, makes you feel like you're somebody. He looked at me like I was crazy. I said, no, I ain't crazy, bro. I know exactly what I'm saying to you. That's why I go and I have a beer. I have 2, sometimes 3. After that, I'm good. I don't want nothing else. Nobody could convince me to sit down and drink and drink and drink. Right? So I remember for my last birthday, they did that. It was like, wait a second. Oh, that was the plan. Yeah, I had a few too much that night. That was my birthday. Yeah, and I could confess it now. It's all good. I don't think I don't think I'm going to go to hell for that. And I'm not encouraging it. I'm not telling you to go sit down and drink and drink and drink and drink. What I am saying is, God never said, don't drink. You cannot drink. You must not drink. Drinking is a sin. Never said that. Please, and if he does, please somebody correct me. But they won't, because they know it's true. They might take something else and try to twist it. Again, that's the kind of thing we've been doing for centuries. That's the kind of thing we've been doing for generations to people who believe. You know, and that's why people think if they go to a church and if they join a church and if they become saved and all of that stuff, people say, well, they can't have no fun. It's like their life is gone. You know? It's like, are you crazy? When you come into God, that's when life now begins. That's when life now starts. Life doesn't end when you get into God. No. Life now begins. That's when your eyes get open. That's when you begin to see things from the correct perspective. That's when everything begins to make sense. It's like, what? Even people who say stuff that's true that they don't even understand what they're saying, but they're saying it nonetheless. Be like, what? That's how you can listen and discern. That's how you can tell who's who. Who living upright and who not. Come on, people. Wake up. Beware of false prophets. They're already here. Okay? They're already here. They've been here. They've been doing the thing for a long time. And they come to you, who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravening wolves. Inwardly, oh man. And don't forget, how you going to know them? Out of the mouth, the heart speaks. So if inwardly they are wolves, then when they speak, that's when they give themselves away. So that's how you know. That's how you can tell. Listen, you could say it as sweetly and nicely as you want. But if it's wrong, it's wrong. See, and what we do is we look at the person and we think about how, how handsome the person is or how beautiful she is. And, so we're not listening to what she's saying or what he is saying. We're looking at the person and we're hearing how they're speaking. And there's this one person who was elevated to the highest office of the land some years ago. Oh, I always saw something in that person. I was like, that person is, But that person had charisma like crazy. Charm. He could walk into a room and everybody just turn and just, oh, we grovel at your feet, sir. Please speak to us. That's the kind of aura that person give off. But wicked as the devil. Yeah, y'all know who I'm talking about too. Yeah. Wicked as the devil. Yeah. But there are people who give off this aura, this vibe, if you will, this spirit, this presence. Right? And when they speak with authority. Remember, Jesus had that, See, Jesus had it. He amazed people when he spoke. He bewildered people when he said words, when he taught. Because the writer says, hey, they have never heard anyone speak with such authority. He spoke as one who had authority, even greater authority than the Pharisees and Sadducees. And that's one of the reasons why they didn't want him around. Because he was stealing their thunder. Thunder, thunder, lightning, and thunder. He was stealing it from them. But Yeshua had it. That ability to stand and just and put people in awe of you. We have to be careful of people like that. And there was one, some years ago. Served 8 years, yeah. Charm had, oh my goodness, but wicked as a devil. This chair is messing me up. I don't know if you all noticed. But every time I lift the chair up, I sit down, 5 minutes later, it drop a little bit, it drop. It's messing, it's. Don't worry about it. We keep it going. He said, by their fruit you will know them. Right? By their fruit. You will know them by the fruit. But the tree didn't have no fruit. That's how you know them too. Their fruit is not there. Their fruit look like it's there. But if you pick it, it's rotten, it's dry. It's not good. It's bad fruit. Right? We talking about a tree. We talking about a tree that's dressed up looking like he's doing something. But he's not doing anything. Inwardly, he's a ravening wolf. Just want to bring people in its sphere of influence. And try to bamboozle them with their pretty leaves. And behind the leaves on the branches, you can't find scrap. What are you going to do when the master come to you and say, I need you to go talk to that person? What you going to do? What you going to do? Somebody comes to you and says, I need some advice. What do you think I should do? What are you going to say? What kind of advice is your advice going to be godly? Or is it going to be worldly? Are you going to lead people the wrong way? Lead them astray? Or are you going to lead them on the straight and narrow? Because in this passage, Yeshua also talks about how narrow the way is to eternity. It's narrow and few are those who will get through. Few! I did a teaching, couple teachings ago. I can't remember the topic that dealt with that. You want to be, if you think about it, think about, God always talks about this remnant, this remnant, this remnant, right? And in the same part, we're still in Matthew 7, in verse 13, if we go up one, he says, enter in by the narrow gate. For the gate is wide and the way is broad that leads to destruction. And you know, sitting there listening to me, you could see how many people are being destroyed. Young people, old people, middle-aged people, doesn't matter. We just talked about Matthew Perry, 54 years old. Right? Don't even talk about the clinics that they have around the cities where they're taking life from mothers. Yeah, you know what I mean. Don't talk about, when you think about how many lives, think about it. See how wide the way is, how broad the path is that leads to destruction. Destruction. I'll say it again. Destruction. And he ends by saying, there are many who enter in by it. Some knowingly, some unknowingly. Because some follow and some lead. And some don't even care where they lead. They just think they can lead, and so they lead. And lead people down the wrong path. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you really ready? Are you seeing well enough to be ready? Are you ready to drive? Are you ready to sit as a passenger? Are you ready when tomorrow comes? Are you ready? Are you going to be ready? This question is being asked. He said, you will know them by the fruit or lack thereof, as in the instance with the tree. And he closes this verse by saying, do you gather grapes from thorns or figs from thistles? In other words, you listen to people, right? You listen to. Do you know where that person is coming from? Do you know what kind of tree that person is? Do you know? In politics, they say left, right, eccentric, whatever. Do you know where that person is coming from when that person says certain things? Do you know? You have homosexuals who are purporting the way of righteousness. Do you know where that person is from? Do you know where that person is coming from? Are you just listening to what they're saying, but not doing what they're doing? Because you can do that, right? You can, you know, God speaks through any entity he chooses. Ask Balaam. Right? God spoke to Balaam through a donkey. Right? The serpent, God uses the serpent in the desert as a symbol of healing. He releases serpents among the people and then tells the people, when you get bitten, first thing you should do is look to the serpent on the pole. So a serpent bites you, look to the other serpent. See? In the Garden of Eden is a serpent. The God created that was smarter than everybody else. That was the wisest thing that God created among the animals, not the humans. Wisest among the animals. Okay? Got to put that in there because humans are not animals. But the wisest animal outfoxed one of the first human beings. And so we, for generations, has used the serpent as a symbol of the devil. So what was on the pole in the desert? Not a serpent? Is that the devil? Yeshua says, be wise as a serpent, but harmless as a dove. Is he saying be wise as the devil, but harmless as a... What? What are we? Huh? I want you to think about these things. I want you to think about these things. Because remember he said, beware of false prophets. So I want you to think about these things. He says, do you gather grapes from thorns or figs from thistles? So when you're gathering, when you're doing your gathering, what do you go to? And when you go to what you go to, are you getting what you're supposed to get? Or did you go to the fig tree and are you getting oranges? Or did you go to the thorns and are you getting figs? Because he's asking a question. Do you gather grapes from thorns? This is a question we have to answer. Does a grapevine have thorns on it? I don't know. I think not. Do thistles give figs? Do they bear figs? I don't know, but I think not. And I say I don't know in ignorance. Right? Then here's, listen. Even so, every good tree produces good fruit. Did you hear that? If you are a good tree, you cannot help but produce good fruit. Here's my question. Are you a good tree? Because the opposite is also correct. But the corrupt tree produces corrupt fruit. Unless God intervenes. God is the biggest, greatest denominator in life. God is the one, as he did with Joseph, okay? God is the one that can take evil and turn it into good. You can't. You cannot, ma'am or sir. Yes, you could be a believer. That doesn't mean that because you're a believer, that you could turn evil into good. Are you crazy? Only God. And you are not God. You are not him. And if he doesn't ordain it, if he doesn't sanction it, it cannot be done. Right? In Joseph's case, Joseph recognized the hand of God. Joseph recognized that his brother did an evil thing. But even though his brother did an evil thing, in every turn that thing took, he benefited from it. Until he was elevated to the second highest authority in Egypt in that time. And he recognized that. I couldn't get here because look at what happened to me. There's no way I could have gotten here through this path. This has to be God. Right? There are many people who get in high places in society and can't see that it's God who put them there. God says, I'm the one who elevates and I'm the one who brings down. So, just so you know, your vote matters. Right? And what God does is, God moves on people. God moves on people. His Spirit moves people to do things for his satisfaction. So if God moves on people and wants Trump to win the next election, then God is going to move on people. And there's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing nobody can do about it. Why? Because God moves. There's nothing can stop the move of God. When God wants to do something, nothing can stop his move. And remember, we already established that he knows everything. He knows where the donkey is tied. He knows the tree didn't have no fruit. He just wants to prove a point. And the point is, I'm in charge, bro, not you. Because he says, I'm the one who puts one up. So whomever God wants in lead, God is going to get that person in lead. And nobody could stop him. Right? God wanted, what's the man? In Gideon. Gideon was hiding. And these are just examples, people. We all know the stories, but these are just examples. I just gave the example of Joseph. Joseph was sold into slavery by his own bloodline. Are you serious? No, I ain't talking about wrestling, okay? I'm talking about real life here. Your own brothers? Really? Golly, that's terrible. Your own brothers. Oh, man. But that's what happened. His own brothers sold him into slavery. Right? And look where he ended up. And then he turned around. He turns around. This is a picture of brothers. This is a picture of how brothers are supposed to operate and act. One brother gets selected and elevated. Okay? And when he gets in that position, he turns around and becomes a blessing to the entire family. Okay, Jacob, remember you have a brother, Esau. Remember you have a brother, Esau. And as wild and crazy as Esau is still dependent on his brother who got the birthright, who has the birthright. Esau is dependent on his brother to operate in that birthright. And when his brother becomes elevated to that place of authority, Esau is dependent on his brother to turn back and say, Esau, yo, I'm here, man. Come on. Let's make up. Let's be one. Let's be family again. And let Esau decide whether he wants to be in the family or not. But Jacob has a responsibility. I just spoke that prophetically there. I hope he who has ears to hear, let him hear. Okay? So, he says, even so, every good tree produces good fruit. And the opposite is equally the same. Every corrupt tree produces corrupt fruit. So, here's the question. Here's the fix. Here's what we have to do. Are you ready? A good tree cannot produce evil fruit. So if you are a good tree out there and you are producing evil fruit, here's the fix. We have to fix you. You probably don't know you as a good tree. You're probably hanging around the thorns and the thistles. You're probably in the ticket. So we probably need to what's the word, farmers? What's the word crop people do? Transplant you. Okay? We need to prune the trees around you or something. But you're in a bad place. Because if you're a good tree, you should not be producing evil fruit. And if you're producing evil fruit, that means you're an evil tree. Because Yeshua said it best, you will know them by their fruit. So if the fruit is evil, the tree can't be good. Okay? Neither, listen, this is simple. It's simple, right? But we have to now look at life and be real with it and say, you know what? You're an evil tree. You're trying to produce good fruit, but you're an evil tree. You can't produce good fruit. So what you're doing is evil. And the fruit that you're giving off is evil. Because an evil tree can't produce good fruit. And if the fruit is good, this is good fruit. Then you can't be an evil tree. So that means something about you has got to change. And we have a lot of people in society who's fighting good causes, who's promoting good causes. But they're wicked trees. They're evil trees. So we're in a predicament. And in another part of scripture, he says, either we make the tree good or we make the tree evil. We got to be clear. We got to erase the gray area. We got to erase the gray area. We can no longer walk in this gray area pretending that the person who's doing evil, they're trying to produce good fruit. They're trying to do a good deed. How could you be trying to do a good deed, but you're an evil tree? Well, what's an evil tree? An unrighteous person, a person who is not obeying God is an unrighteous person. You got to obey God. But like, how do you obey God? You got to do what the scripture says. Do what the gospel says. Do what the letters, some parts of the letters say. Right? The Old Testament everything is still in play. God is alive. God ain't dead. I don't know who told you that. He is dead. God ain't dead. He's alive. God ain't dead. And if he ain't dead, then everything is still up for grabs. Everything is still up for grabs. Because he ain't dead. You might be dead in your sin and your trespasses. But he ain't. And if you're dead and he could resurrect you. He could restore you. So the evil tree that's trying to produce good fruit, we have to make that tree good. The good tree that's producing evil fruit, we have to make that tree good. So we either have to make the tree evil, so the fruit will be evil, or make the tree good, so the fruit would be good. We got to make up our minds, people. We got to make up our minds. And far too many of us, especially in the body of believers called the church, is too much swinging back and forth. Like Will Smith's little daughter. I whip my hair back and forth. Too much whipping back and forth. And what did James say? How long will you go back and forth with two opinions? If you'll be on God's side, stay on God's side. And if you be on the devil's side, stay on the devil's side. But stop whipping your hair back and forth. Stop going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I hope you enjoyed that. I did. Had a lot of fun. Okay? Like I said, nothing about God. Well, let me rephrase that. I don't want you to think that in God you can't have fun, that you can't laugh, that you can't, go places and enjoy life. There's a lot of things you could do as a believer, right? That you could enjoy. A lot of things. There's so many things, right? You just, it's the difference is in your approach. What's your motive for, there's a ball game. The ball game is not good against evil. A ball game is people might ask, well, when you think God gets involved in games, it's sports. That's between you and that's between two of you all. God ain't getting involved in that. Well, what do you mean? What do you mean? If God is to get involved, if you have two righteous people playing on opposite teams, how do you want God to choose which one of them should win? You see what I'm saying? That's why he can't be involved. He's involved in the people that playing, but to say that he will determine how a game goes, no. So you could go to that game and have fun. A basketball game, a football game, soccer game. There's so many different sports and so many different things. Movies and all kinds of stuff. That you could go and have fun. And talk and laugh. And all you have to do is, what did Paul say? Keep your conversation wholesome. Keep your conversation wholesome. How do all things work together for good? To them who love God and to them who are called according to his purpose. How do all things work together? Well, everything that happened to me wasn't good. I had some terrible experiences. I did some not so good things as a young person growing. Profanity was like, oh boy. I used to curse a lot. How does doing that? How is that turned for we know all things work together for good? How does it works together for good if I could let people know, listen, profanity, it's a word. The M's and the F's and the B's and all of these are words. And God is well familiar with words because he is the word. Right? I remember I wasn't even, I was far from God, okay? I was far from God. Now I'm just a little closer. But that time I was far from God. And I remember walking in a store. No. I remember getting a phone call at my job. Not this job that I had. This is long ago. Back home. I don't know, right? But I used to teach aerobics, fitness, that kind of stuff. And somehow this person got my job number and called me at my job. Right? And this person was trying to seduce me over the phone. This person was a man, who in the beginning tried to talk like a female, right? And over the phone, it was like, talking all this nice talk and like a girl. And I'm being who I was then, I was, being lured in. I'm hearing, okay, some sound is different, right? It's like, then I started, is somebody playing a prank on me or something? I thought that's what it was. Somebody was pranking me. Then I was like, is this a guy? Who is this? Like that. I was like, man, get the heck out of here. Click, and I hung up. Because I ain't no, I don't roll that way, bro. I'm a straight shooter. I don't play left or right. I'm a male, okay? I got male body parts, okay? I got a male brain in there, okay? Everything about me is male. And so when I started to realize that the voice was, every so often it would crack and you would hear a different tone. I was like, wait a second. I thought I was being pranked, right? But it turned out, I still can't say if I was being pranked or not. But when I hung up, it was nothing with me. I was telling all my coworkers, like, yo, somebody just tried to prank me, trying to lure me into a little something here with him. But it's like, it's a man. But I didn't know who it was. So I hung up. Next, they called back again. And this time now, I'm in my office. Okay, mind you, I'm a firefighter in uniform in my office with my senior officers in their offices in the same building. And I'm cussing on the phone to this person. I'm like, you better stop effing this call at me. Because I don't play that. No. Click. And my boss, he's like, who's that you talking to on the phone? You using all this profanity, right? I was like, boss, that person called back. Because he was, they all knew. So he was laughing. He was like, wow, okay. But I don't play that. Right? So, how do these bad experiences, mind you, nothing happened, nothing came out of that. Because, I never found out who that person was. Right? I always thought it was somebody pranking me. Because obviously, if you call once and I, cuss you out and I hung up, and, I don't expect you to call back. But you did. You called a couple times too, right? So, but I never found out who the person was who pranked me. And so, everything just fizzled out. And I didn't get any calls. I never found out or anything like that. So that was that. But what I'm saying is, when you experience bad things, if Romans says that, for we know all things work together for good to those who love God, to them who are called according to his purpose, how do these bad things relate to good? How Joseph got sold into slavery? How does that transform into something good if all things work together for good? Well, God gets involved, right? But God wouldn't necessarily get involved if you are not with God. You understand what I'm saying? For we know all things work together for good to those who love God and to those who are called according to his purpose. So if you can only be with God if you love God. That's the only way you can't be away from God and love God. That's not how God wants you to love him, right? You can't be over there in the mud and still love God. You ought to come out of that mud somehow, okay? So, only God could change that. And one of the ways I see, one of the ways for me as I see it is, when you take those experiences and you share it with people to let them know, yeah, especially if that person is in a similar situation, or to just to let that person know that you have experiences, you've had bad experiences, and so you know how it feels to have a bad experience, because not every experience is the same, but two bad experiences is two bad experiences. And generally you will feel bad, two people, right? So if you are a friend with somebody and that person don't know, never hear you talk about a bad experience that you've had, if they have had bad experiences, then, you know, how would they know? Say, I don't know if I should tell him anything, because he's such a good person, and I don't want to, no. So you open yourself, you make yourself vulnerable, in other words, and you expose yourself, right? And so that way, people know all these things about you and about your life, and they see where you are, and that helps them to, well, like, wow, okay, I see why he is the way he is. You know what I'm saying? They could see a little bit better, and that helps them. That helps God move, right? Because God moves, and he's always moving because he's alive, right? And he profits nothing when a sinner dies. He doesn't be up there clapping, yeah. No, it's when a sinner turns, when a sinner repents. That's when all of heaven cheers and, oh, we got one. That's what he likes. That's what he wants, right? When somebody dies, he gets no glory from that, But he can use your life for good if you understand that the bad things that you have experienced in life can be elevated in a way as if it's not a good thing, but it's a good example of what not to do or what to do in certain cases, right? All right, well, that's it for now. Hopefully, we'll continue next week, same time, same channel. But before we close, as we always do, turn your Bibles to Numbers chapter 6. Right? Numbers chapter 6, verse 22 through 27. In these passages of scripture, there is a blessing that God commands Aaron, his high priest, and his sons to do over his people. God loves to bless his people. Okay, God wants to bless his people. He takes great pleasure in, great delight in blessing his people. And so, if you are a believer, if you are considered his people, then you could be in line for this blessing, right? And it's a simple few lines that I love to say at the end, at the close of every session, right? I think I've missed one session so far. And then the next session I came back, I opened with that one and closed with it. So hopefully I made up. But if you're there in your Bibles, Numbers chapter 6, verse 22 through 27 reads as follows. And Jehovah said to Moses, and Jehovah spoke to Moses, saying, speak to Aaron and to his sons, saying, this is how you shall bless the children of Israel. You shall tell them, Jehovah bless you and keep you. Jehovah make his face to shine on you and be gracious to you. Jehovah lift up his countenance towards you and give you peace. So they shall put my name on the children of Israel, and I will bless them. Amen. In the meantime, God bless you. Dios te bendiga. Shavua Tov. Shabbat Shalom. Dash Vadanya. Adieu. Buenas tardes, buenas noches, buenos días, adios, bye, peace, I'm out.